Hi, I'm Sharyn Kerrigan and I live across the road from the beach at the southern end of Brisbane. The ocean is my passion and it is essential for my well-being. Pretty much every morning or two I have shared an image of the natural beauty of our coastal edge on a Facebook page project I established about 10 years ago named Bramity Beach. On March the 2nd this year, the photos I took were not so beautiful. I hope to raise observations here that will result in improving our local disaster management and build our coastal communities' resilience. Point 1. In March this year, this coastal disaster went unattended for at least 5 days in Noosa. It is important to find ways to forecast and address a coastal pollution spill as soon as possible. Noosa Council's disaster management's latest update asked us to check flood maps to be aware of our own flood risks. Common coastal flooding behind the dunes are not shown on these maps. Stormwater overflows to beach outlets are not shown on these maps. Flood debris coming from the ocean are not acknowledged on these maps. 5 days before the coastal pollution spill reached our shores, Noosa Council issued an emergency alert for Noosa. It would be good to acknowledge local coastal conditions on this disaster dashboard. Seeing a stranded pontoon on Brisbane Beach right in front of the surf club did not set off immediate alarm bells. Many of us did not know they were made of polystyrene construction covered by a thin plastic skirt. On March the 1st, our community was oblivious and unprepared for the coastal pollution spill that was about to arrive. It would be beneficial to have river flood and ocean current information on our council's disaster dashboard. Day 6 and there was no information on the disaster dashboard about the coastal pollution spill at all. We could see Clayton Towing was collecting the small plastic pontoons and polystyrene pieces, but only the ocean was moving the big pontoons. 6 days into the disaster, and environmental organisations wishing to help mitigate the pollution spill were still relying on my photos and information shared on Bramity Beach. By this stage, it would have been beneficial to have had an emergency collaborative meeting of coastal organisations, experienced engineers, pontoon fabricators, Maritime Safety Queensland and tow truck companies from the 3 coastal shires. There would have been many benefits for Council to have created a coastal emergency response advisory body. Point 2. It is important we all recognise how valuable our clean beaches are to our economy, our well-being and our coastal ecology. It is important we address the shortfalls in resources and personnel needed to protect this important asset and draw upon our community who use it. Our community believes our local council's strength is protecting our natural environment. If our council is under-resourced, it is important our volunteer organisations and local businesses find ways of stepping up and taking a role in protecting it. Noosa Tourism receives $2.5 million in Noosa Council budget. There is the opportunity for the high-level skills of this communication team to be utilised during the coastal disaster on our beachfront. Thanks to the ABC Sunshine Coast for reporting what was really happening on our beaches and for supporting the environmental organisations who organise clean-up events. There was hardly any public information in our coastal business centres to inform visitors and residents about the coastal pollution spill out front and how every clean-up effort, no matter how small, is appreciated so we can reclaim the beautiful natural qualities of our beaches. It would have been good if disaster management could work with surf club, bistro, bar businesses to rally community clean-up support needed for such disasters. With visitor numbers continuing to increase demand on coastal resources, it is important to complete the Eastern Beaches Foreshore Management Plan ASAP. Coolum Coast Care Turtle Care crew had very difficult conditions to address on a daily basis over the same period as the pollution spill. But they already had a good phone tree network that was utilised during the disaster to report the conditions up and down the coast. So many local organisations associate themselves with our beautiful coastline. Hopefully, all these stakeholders can be ready to play their part in protecting our natural environment when it comes under threat again. Council disaster management may consider accommodating structured volunteering like the Rural Fire Brigade during the coastal disaster recovery stage next time. Number 3, improve ocean beach safety education. High tides during wild coastal weather, when the dunes had become escarpments, is definitely a dangerous time to be on the beach. So many beach visitors are unaware of this. So many residents who use the beach to walk their dogs or a pathway to their local cafe are unaware of this. 3 days before the pollution spill arrived from Brisbane, our beaches were closed due to dangerous weather and surf conditions. At this stage, there was no coastal damage mentioned in Noosa or Sunshine Coast disaster management updates, nor warnings about the chances that prevailing currents may bring Brisbane River washout debris towards our coastline. It would be beneficial to the local community and tourists to have additional localised safety information and signage available for people still planning to come to the beaches. Saturday morning was crazy. Finally, after so much rain, we had a blue sky day. Red flags were up and the beaches were closed for swimming. We now had Pigeon Beach Surf Club volunteers join in promoting beach clean-up operations. But no one was stepping up to identify the partial pontoons and the shore break were a public safety risk. Dangerous beach walking conditions were not conveyed to the public by local council or the leading coastal aquatic safety authority. 10 days into the coastal disaster, the flags are up and the beaches are open for swimming again. There is up to 12 large pontoons on our section of the coastline, either drifting in the shallows, sitting in the shore break or stranded on the beach. Full moon, high tides and large swell returned a month after the pollution spill began. Large logs washed up on the beach, re-entered the shore break. We had a safety issue on our beach again. Item 4. The roundtable discussion we're having today will hopefully have addressed this item. Ensure the community knows who will respond to a coastal environmental disaster and how they will have the resources to act immediately to protect our natural coastline. We know a rapid response would reduce the severity of a pontoon pollution spill. Day 3, I came across Gary from MSQ, who was out surveying the location, size and condition of each of the pontoons that had washed up. He did not pretend they were ready and prepared to mitigate this environmental disaster straight away, and I identified that MSQ did not have the resources to address these stranded pontoons on the eastern beaches at the moment. There was not going to be a rapid response. Without a rapid removal plan, the polystyrene was going to blow up into the dunes and break up further and be embedded in the sand. 11 days in, with 2 high tides per day, many of the pontoons were still exposed to the ocean shore break. There is much to learn to prevent the additional pollution spill that occurred during the pontoon removal process. Hopefully, Noosa Council will get behind the dedicated collaborative work of the environmental groups who are here today to establish best practice mitigation for polystyrene. Hopefully, footage of the process undertaken by Noosa Council will provide some insight on how to be better prepared and what size equipment will be required for such a task if it happens again. With further regular cleanups, hopefully, we can get the beach back to being beautiful. There is no hiding from what was a disastrous operation by Noosa Council to collect the pontoon pollution buried in the dunes 2 weeks after the pontoons were transported off the beach. To finish my observations on a positive note, item 5 is a proactive suggestion to build community resilience in our coastal community. To build resilience in our coastal community. To establish a coastal disaster management hub, a place to build our coastal information network and to build a library of tools for mitigating pollution. Noosa Council did acknowledge the massive community effort to clean up the pollution on the beach. A tub of bags at a few of the beach entries was the extent of help our council provided for the community. To adequately undertake the task, we needed a place to find out the latest information and location of hotspots that needed action. We needed battery-operated vacuums, just like what Townsville City Council informed us on day 5 of the disaster, when they had addressed a beanbag spill on Magnetic Island a few years before. Whether it's a temporary pop-up disaster triage tent on the side of a surf club or something more permanent, I hope Noosa Council will explore this idea more. I still have one of the Ocean Crusaders 2-stroke vacuums and a beach sieve in my garage. So many volunteers had their car boots full of stuff. It was a long clean-up operation. We need a place to learn a better method of collecting the polystyrene beads. I will quickly take this opportunity to present an idea to all the Eastern Beach stakeholders at this table. If there is resistance from the surf club organisations to share their clubhouse and be part of the climate change challenge that we're facing on our beaches, then maybe we can consider coast care cupboards on the sides of the coastal public toilet buildings. Sunrise Beach, Castaway, Glen Eden, Victory Park, Stoomas Creek all have toilet blocks close to the beach. The White Spill was a catastrophic environmental disaster that just did not look as bad as an oil slick. We have to find ways to improve how we mitigate polystyrene pollution spills before it happens again, here or elsewhere. It's going to stay with us for a long, long time. Thank you for listening.